Also give you a nice timeline that's both narrative and visual in terms of remembering what actually took place. And so that's why they're blank pages. They're blank because you can use those either to write, to make charts, to draw, and we also can make them bigger so that they're like, you know, this size, and then you open them up. But we wanted to, you know, just try them out with you. Now, here's an interesting principle I learned about at the last AGU conference, the American Geophysical Union. There was a poster, see that's a poster, at these big conferences, the scientists put together posters. They're a little more complex than that one is. That was high school version. But the idea is that the research work is presented. So there is this research on a mathematical principle called the Binford principle. Now, here's what this guy did. He noticed that he went into, I don't know whether he's a librarian or he noticed it in the library, he noticed that many books are worn on the first few pages of the book. Now, why would a whole bunch of books be only worn on the first page of the first few pages? What do you think? Right, you pick up a book, you figure out, do I want to read this? And you look at the first page or something. Well, it struck him that maybe that's a pattern that works in a lot of things. Now, here's one thing, when I saw that poster, I thought, we've been using these things for several years. And what happens? We're literally hundreds of kids. And what happens is, there's all sorts of cool stuff on the first page. And then there's nothing on the rest. So then I think, okay, so why is it? So this guy was saying that there's a tendency in many, many, many things, statistically, that if you, it's like it's the first, or the first sample, or the first experience, there's a huge spike if you were to count all those firsts. There's much less if you guys say, you know, it's like the second page, if there's 2 pages, or 3 pages, or 4 pages. So you can actually evaluate how powerful your program is if you can get beyond people using the first page. Isn't that interesting?
See, I told you you had to tell people you're learning things.
So I thought maybe one of the rubrics, which is that a rubric is an evaluation tool. It is just saying, okay, how do I know if this is a successful adventure?
Do you guys ever get like writing assignments and your teacher gives you the rubric, like so many points will be for grammar and so many are for your introduction? That's a rubric.
So now, of course, I just clued you guys in, so it's not going to work to test it with you guys. But what's going to happen here in maybe a month or so is we're going to start having groups of elementary and middle school kids coming at this time slot. You told them about that? And then, of course, you'll be our inquiry coaches, you know, as well as our professional coaches. So one rubric I have in my mind is how can we get kids in the course of 2 hours to use more than the first page? And what does it mean that you use more than the first page? I mean, maybe we have too many pages for a typical group of kids. Maybe all we need is one sheet of paper that has 4 pages, let's say. I thought for you guys, you'd probably not lose this, and now it's the other thing I thought about is, of course, I've been using this as a cover. Maybe the cover should be blank so that everybody can personalize the cover, and basically have the inquiry wheel either on the back so that there's nothing on the front and just the inquiry in the back. But I thought I'd bring that up for discussion. What I did with these is I wanted this to be actually a notebook that teaches about how to use the inquiry wheel here. And the reason I call it a game is not because I think games are silly and fun, though they are silly and fun, but even scientists sometimes refer to their work in terms of games. I've actually interviewed scientists, and they said, yeah, I've been in the ice game for about 40 years. Now, I was interviewing scientists because I was writing this curriculum on exploring ice in the solar system. This guy, now, this is how romantic science can be. He actually met his wife, and I guess his wife met him, on the ice in Greenland. I mean, they're both researching stuff, so obviously they have something in common. They love ice. And what happens up there is at certain times of the year in the spring, it's like, they call it the rose ice, because there's something that blooms, it's a bacterial bloom that likes the cold, and it kind of makes everything a little reddish and pinkish in the ice. So he told me that story, but I remember it so clearly because he said, the ice game. He said, okay, so it's okay to use this idea of a game, because that's how scientists talk about it. And my dad was a scientist, and he definitely enjoyed playing science as much as he enjoyed playing cards, if that makes sense. And of course, that's what we're trying to do. If we can make science as fun as playing a game, and people want to get good at a game, right? You want to get, you know, like all these different levels of these video games. But so this is a structure of how to keep track and how to guide students, how to guide yourself and how to guide others through science as inquiry. Because this whole thing is about teaching science as inquiry. And by the way, in case someone asks, that's in the National Science Education Standards. It's not just something I'm saying for pure fun.
Yeah, we didn't make it up.
So if someone asks you, you can say, yes, this is standards aligned, as if that matters to you, right? Because really what matters is the fun part.
Yes.
And the joy of doing science. Now, so, science is not done in a vacuum. It means that, and what I mean by that is there's got to be something going on in your mind that you're curious about, that you're doing the science around. So inquiry takes place in the context of trying to figure something out, which is the object of the inquiry wheel game, trying to figure something out that you are truly interested in, not just because I assigned it or your teacher assigned it. Now, in the real world of science, it's a trade-off. You get your own curiosity going, wow, I want to learn about the magnetic fields of the sun, and I want to do it for my living. Who's going to pay you to figure out about the magnetic fields of the sun? Well, there are agencies that want people to do that. NASA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. And so, hold on, I'm going to turn this off.